Welcome back to another commentary. This time we're covering a user by the name of Debatably, who I'll be shortening to Yvel. He usually makes videos about Pokemon and Brawlhalla. On the 2nd of February 2024, he released a video responding to a Poketuber named the Aura Guardian, who I'll be shortening to Aura, who made a video titled 50 downgrades in Pokemon. I had some issues with Yvel's video, so here we are now. By the way, thanks to Tokenium for bringing this video to my attention. Quickly, two things before we begin. First, throughout his video, Yvel splices together different downgrades on very different timestamps. Not for malicious reasons, but rather because they can either be debunked in the same argument, or because they use the same line of logic. I don't think it is an issue necessarily, but since he doesn't bring it up, I thought I should so no one gets confused. Second and final thing, I'll be calling Sword and Shield Swish, Scarlet and Violet Scarvio, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl as BDSP, Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee as Just Let's Go, and Legends of Arceus as Just Arceus. Got that? No? Then good luck.
Es que la opinión sobre el señor Manguera está muy dividida. 45% de la gente lo odia y 55% no lo quiere.
Shiny locking Pokemon. Seriously, there is absolutely no reason for this. Please stop.
I kinda just wanted to use this as an outlet to say I do not understand why people get so ass mad about Game Freak's shiny locking legendaries. I'm sure you can live without the little sparkle animation that plays when your differently colored legendary Pokemon comes out. If anything, these people should be happy that Game Freak is shiny locking these Pokemon because it's saving them from wasting potentially months of their life for something that's so insignificant in the grand scheme of things.
The reason why people get mad? Because it makes arbitrary restrictions about what a player can and can't do in the games they own. Even if you're not the type of player to shiny hunt, that still lowers the amount of stuff you can do in the game. A similar argument could be raised with any type of challenge turn. Oh, why are you wasting your time grinding your Pokemon for an Nuzlocke when you could just use the Pokemon that fainted? Why don't you stop doing a Mono Water type run and just switching a ground type against the Electric Gym? This decision doesn't bring anything to the table, it just takes us away. It takes even more when the fact that not every Pokemon is shiny looked, and the fact that it didn't exist prior to Gen 5 versus the reason they went out of their way to program in and is not for shiny Pokemon work by default. Also, how do you save people from wasting their time exactly? The games don't tell you whether or not the Pokemon are shiny locked. That info is only made public after a data mine, or in other words, after the game is released. And even then, you have to go out of your way to look it up. This means that there is a chance of someone looking that information up after they started hunting for the Pokemon. You know what's an even bigger waste of time than trying to get something with extreme odds of it happening? Trying to get something when there are no chances of it happening. If they really wanted to save their players' time, they could have just mentioned it in-game directly, since Pokemon is not strange to having the characters explaining the game mechanics as if it were a video game and not a world where they themselves inhabit. Plus, this entire argument is built on the experiences of shiny hunters when shiny Pokemon are not exclusive to shiny hunters. You know something that really excites people, especially kids? Getting something good that they had no ways of getting. You know what makes them even more excited? When they get one when, in their inexperienced point of view, there is no way of revolving. I know I got super excited almost a decade ago when I got an extremely rare support character in a gacha game, despite the fact that I had no characters who could actually use the support effectively, just because it was rare. I can't imagine how excited I'd be if I got to use a shiny legendary on my party. This is an experience that Game Freak is gatekeeping for no real reason whatsoever. And finally, let's get back to the time wasting thing. You know what else is considered by many people to be a waste of time? You know what else is insignificant in the grand scheme of things? I won't give you an answer, but I will give you a hint. It's quite important to the video you're making.
¡Oh, Tulio! Después de la nota, el 99% quiere que el señor Manguera se muera!
Catching Pokemon in Legends Arceus. Massive improvement. Then going back to regular catching in Scarlet and Violet. The shiny jingle being added in Legends Arceus, and then removed for Scarlet and Violet.
This one made me kinda angry because I hear this a lot from people. I thought it was pretty common knowledge now that these games were being developed during the same time, which means that nothing from Legends Arceus that was absent in Scarlet and Violet was removed from the game. It was never going to be a part of the game in the first place. So to sit here and complain about it like they're actively removing these features to make the game worse is ridiculous to me.
Cool trivia about Pokemon development. Now, how does it change anything? Sure, it does mean that it's not reasonable to expect the gameplay changes in Arceus to carry over onto Scarvio, but it's still a change between one Pokemon game to another later game that, in Aura's eyes, makes the game less fun. This is literally the definition of a downgrade, regardless of whether or not the team intended Scarvio were aware of the changes that would be introduced in Arceus. Also, data for the Hisuian variant of Pokemon were found in Scarvio's code prior to the compatibility update, it's fair to say that they were able to at least communicate with one another, so it's not that far out of the realm of possibility to say that they could have at least communicated on the other gameplay changes, especially the minor ones like the changing sound effect.
Graphics. I think we can all agree, the new Pokemon Snap looks much better than Scarlet and Violet.
I don't think I even need to explain why this point is dumb, but I'm gonna do that anyways because I know critical thinking is not exactly a part of most Pokemon fans' skill set. Literally the entire point of Pokemon Snap is for the game to look good. Not only is this a railroad game, which means that you're gonna be going down a set path every single time that you go through a level, which means that they have a lot less stuff that they need to make look good. The entire purpose of this game is for you to be taking pictures of the Pokemon. With that in mind, it kinda has to look good. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that to excuse how horrifically ugly Pokemon Scarlet and Violet look, but these games aren't even comparable, bro. That's like comparing Pokemon Sword and Shield to Pokken Tournament, bro. These games are not on the same level.
This is actually completely fair. They are very much so different games that have to focus on different aspects, giving them a very different amount of resources to make in graphical quality. Aura's comparison is unfair. Wanna know something fun? I went to watch Aura's video because I wanted to know if there was any criteria or definition that might change what he used as a downgrade in comparison to how the word is typically used. Spoilers, there wasn't. What I did find, however, is that Aura's point wasn't finished. In fact, his full point is much more reasonable than Evil Scott makes it out to be.
Graphics. I think we can all agree, the new Pokemon Snap looks much better than Scarlet and Violet. Hell, some people even think Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee looks better than Scarlet and Violet. Hopefully this won't be that much of an issue for long.
See that? A direct comparison to a mainline Pokemon game that was released a couple years before. One could also bring up Let's Go had to be more limited visually compared to Scarlet, because the former had the task to recreate a playthrough world, while the latter had free reign to look however it wanted. The fact that it is cut out is a real shame, because there are still issues with Aura's point that you could have brought up. Mainly the fact that Scarlet's world is almost fully open, in comparison to Let's Go, which has much more limited maps, so the Switch's power had to be further distributed.
The Sword and Shield DLC, believe it or not, made the regular game a little bit slower. That also affected the speedrun by around 90 seconds.
Oh, boo-hoo!
This segment frustrates me on so many levels. Aura brings up the 90-second delay without mentioning what causes the delay, which is, in my opinion, the most important part. Wanna know why? Because this is caused by an increase in load time when you open the item menu and when you enter buildings. You know, two of the most common things you do in an RPG. This is one of the reasons it frustrates me to see Evil brush it off like that, because sure, it's just a 90-second delay speedrun, but that's the key word here, speedrun. Speedrunners look for the quickest and most efficient way of finishing the game. That means opening the item menu and entering buildings as little as possible. While it's just 90 seconds to a speedrunner, to the rest of us it's way more. And believe me when I say, unlimited loading times builds up over time, especially when you experience better load times recently with the same game. The other reason why Evil pushing it off annoys me is that Aura here is presenting the closest we have to an objective downgrade, at least compared to Iron Like catching Pokemon, is at least measurable. And do you want to know the worst part? This segment it cut in a way that leaves relevant information off the table. But unlike last time, it actually helps Evil. If you only watch Evil's video, you get Aura complaining about the game's performance being worse after the update, which is a 90-second delay of speedruns. But if you watch the original clip in full, you see him also bringing up the speedrun delay in BDSP, which was caused by how glitchy the game was on release. So Aura's problem here was that speedruns took longer, not the game's performance. So Evil would have been right here if he had just included that little bit of context.
Before I ended this video off, I just wanted to point out that he mentioned this at the start of his video.
This video isn't just me complaining about the Pokemon games lately, more pointing out things that Pokemon can hopefully make better for their next game.
And then he proceeded to complain about the modern Pokemon games for most of the video, so yeah, that was kind of funny.
He said just complain, as in not only. Sure, he doesn't really go into much detail about what can be done to improve the games, but since this is a video about downgrades, it's clear to me that most of the detail would boil down to revert the change, so I don't think we are really missing out on much. Even still, he does explain why he has some of his issues in a bit more detail, like the shiny sound effect in Arceus for example. He brings up that he finds that feature useful because it makes it easier to tell when a shiny Pokemon has spawned. After that, he closes his video and so do I. This is what I would say if it wasn't brought to my attention, once again thanks to Aura, that he had made a response to the comments on his video on Aura, and in another video, but that's neither here nor there. and it's fine. Like I said, he's returning to YouTube comments. The comment section is not exactly the place where you find conversations of the highest intellect. It's not really that surprising that he's able to do a sufficient job countering them. With that said though, I do have issues with one specific response.
Acaba de llamar una anciana pidiendo la dirección del señor Manguera para ir a golpearlo.
The entire point of his video was just to point out some stuff that could be better in small little nitpicks. It's completely ridiculous to just say something like boo-hoo because you don't speedrun. Also, PLA and SV were developed at the same time. A shiny jingle is not difficult to implement. They had an extra year after PLA, so they could have very easily put in a noise. Now, at first I was wondering to myself how such levels of stupidity could even be achieved by a human being, but then I realized that this guy was commenting on a Pokemon video with a Mordex profile picture, so really I shouldn't have expected anything higher than a room temperature IQ take from this guy. You're welcome, Pauper. Now, there's a few reasons why this comment is pretty stupid because, well, for starters, I never implied anywhere in that video that it would have been hard for them to implement the shiny sound effect, bro. I just said that it was more likely than not never intended to be a part of the game in the first place. I'm certain that if they really wanted to put it in the game, they could very easily. But think about it. These games were being developed at the same time, right? They likely weren't even thinking about adding the shiny sound effects, and even if they were, there's been 2 whole DLC patches and a plethora of other updates to the game, and it's been out for like a year going on 2 now. If they really wanted the shiny sound to be in the game, then they would have implemented it already. Come on now.
Who cares about what they wanted to put into the game? The developer's intention is completely irrelevant. Aurora likes the feature where the game makes a sound effect when the shiny spawns. That feature is absent in another game. The latter came out after the former. As such, it's to him a downgrade. It doesn't matter if the devs were making a conscious decision to change the game mechanic still changed. And frankly, I don't think it's unreasonable to expect something like this, because a special sound effect that plays when something special happens is not a particularly revolutionary feature. This very thing happens every time a shiny is sent to battle, so it's just a translation of something that already happens in-game onto the overworld. Anyway, I have nothing more to say on the matter except for the fact that Pokemon fans don't deserve rights. Bye bye.